You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And today we are looking at the Champions League final. A very shocking one at that. But first, before we get into all that, let us talk about the Maple Start, my favorite segment of the entire podcast. Quick, this guy, actually, I'm a big fan of. He's not Canadian, he's actually American, but used to play for Toronto FC. I'm a big fan of him. I always liked him. Nick Hagland. I just want to quickly say, I hope he's doing all right after a big injury that he suffered. Did not look good. He had a broken rib. Was it a punctured lung as well? Don't quote me on that one. But yeah, obviously that's not good, even the broken rib and everything. So just want to say, I hope that he's doing better. I hope that he will be back soon. And you never want to see someone, especially a guy of his quality, and seems like a very good guy just in general, like not take the player side of it, just seems like a good guy. You don't want to see someone like that get an injury like that. I mean, you don't want to see anybody get an injury like that. But yeah, so just wanted to quickly say that before we properly start the Maple Start. So let's start the Maple Start now. TFC have played 2 games since the last time I had done a Maple Start. So earlier in the week, last week-ish, they played Philly, and they lost to Philly. They somehow miraculously went up 1-0 thanks to Brent Helton. A great goal by him, by the way, just totally against the run of play as well. TFC was the second best team on the night the whole time. Let's be honest, as optimistic as we want to be, let's be honest here. They did not deserve anything from that game, but they got themselves into a position where they could have gotten something from that game. And you also have to thank your goalkeeper, Sean Johnson, one of the best goalkeepers the MLS has ever seen. Shame that he's kind of seems to be winding down his career in this sort of way. I think he deserves a little bit better than this. And I think a few of those TFC boys deserve a little bit better as well. But yeah, they end up losing 2-1, a late comeback from Philly. That's why Philly is the top of their conference, because they are able to get results like that. And yeah, TFC just total capitulation in the last 15 minutes. Montreal, I mean, what have I said about TFC that can't be copy and pasted for Montreal, apart from they never led against Miami, and they were never expected to lead against Miami, in all fairness. Inter Miami is the all-star team, let's be honest. But yeah, they lost 4-2. Montreal, that is, to Miami. At least on the bright side, Latari got a goal. That's nice, a CPL product going and scoring for Montreal against one of the biggest teams, one of the hardest teams. I don't want to say they're one of the biggest teams, one of the hardest teams in the MLS to score against. So that's at least good. On that same night, Vancouver drew with Minnesota 0-0. Jesse Marsch was in the crowd. Not an exciting game, but this was all just a precursor for the Champions Cup for Vancouver, of course. And Dane St. Clair swapped jerseys with Sam Adekubi, and Tani Oluwaseyi swapped jerseys with Ali Ahmed, which I thought was really cool. Outside of that, Portland won against Colorado. I know they are not a Canadian team, but they have a lot of Canadian talent on that team. Maxime Crepeau and Kamal Miller, Zach McGraw, and James Pentemis. They won 2-1 over Colorado. Jacob Schaffelberg's Nashville drew to the Columbus Crew in that same match week. Skipping forward a little bit, this happened after all these games took place. Anderlecht in Belgium are looking at Nico Sigur. I think this would be a phenomenal move. Canadians have seemed to flourish in the Belgium League. I mean, just look at David Squared, Promise David, and Jonathan David, of course. Tejan Buchanan as well. Kyle Larin spent some time in Belgium. So I think it'd be a very good move for Sigur, especially with Anderlecht. They are known for pumping out good young talent. So I hope this move happens. I really do. I think it would benefit him. I think it's a step up for him, and it's a new challenge. And like I said, Anderlecht are known for producing good young talent. I really hope this move happens. Let's speak into existence, everyone. Toronto FC, according to @CL Morello, are vying with other Mexican clubs to sign Argentinian midfielder Jose Pordella. The Liga MX star is only 26. He's a central attacking midfielder with 11 goals and 13 assists in Liga MX this season. So they could be looking at him as a DP, and I think that would be a wise decision. They need a DP. That would be good. They need someone that can, improve them somehow. So, make that happen, maybe. I don't know. And then Villarreal, this news came out yesterday. Villarreal are considering extending Tajon Buchanan's loan now. I know that's not a permanent move, but I think it does speak well on what they think of Tage. I think it shows that they're at least impressed with him in the little that they've seen of him. I know he's had a positive loan spell, but he did get injured, so it's hard for them to want to fork out the $12 million buy option, I think it was. So maybe extending the loan would be good, get him a full season with Villarreal, and then maybe you see a permanent move come in. Maybe he goes elsewhere. Maybe he goes back to Inter. Who knows what's going to happen? I feel like Tage's future is very much up in the air, even with this report coming out. And yeah, I hope he has a good move this summer. Maybe it is to Villarreal. Maybe it is to another Italian club. Maybe it's to whoever. I just hope he has a good move. I don't think he's in Inter's plans at the moment. And Inter, we'll talk about Inter a lot this episode, given that it's a Champions League final. Inter seems like they could be on the precipice of a rebuild. So we will wait and see with Tajon, and I'll, of course, talk a little bit about Inter literally in a few minutes. Kyle Hebert. This was yesterday, as a recording yesterday, so Saturday. He missed the match day squad for the first time this season for St. Louis. Their Iron Man, if you will. I know he's not technically been Iron Man. He has missed minutes. He's come off every now and then, but he has started, I believe, every single match for them outside of this match on this past weekend. Seems like a pretty well disrespected player, honestly. I'm a big fan of Kyle Hebert. Doesn't seem to get the applause that he deserves in the MLS, and then doesn't seem to get called up by Jesse Marsch. I think that's a mistake. I think he's great. I think he is versatile, and I think he would be a great guy to have in the squad for Canada, and I think he is one of the better defenders that MLS has to offer. I said what I said. Yep. Desiree Scott, big fan of hers, has now played her final game for the women's Canada team. Legend. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but she is a legend. She leaves with 2 bronze medals at the Olympics and 1 gold medal, and was integral to a lot of Canada's success in the last over a decade. She's been around the program for a long time. Of course, looked like she was going to retire from club football full stop until she ended up joining Ottawa in the NSL. And yeah, I'm a massive fan of hers. I think she's been a great player. Never, I don't want to say never got the credit that she deserved, but feels like she never got as much credit as she deserved, if that makes sense. Like, she did get credit, but it never feels like she got that credit. And yeah, I think she will be missed. I know she hasn't really been a part of the national team plans for a little bit now, but I do still think she'll be missed. She's a great character to have and is obviously a great player. So wish her nothing but the best. I know that she is obviously with Ottawa, but yeah, just want to quickly say that because yeah, she is a legend, and I think that she deserves some applause. So Desiree Scott, what a career. What a career she had with the Canadian women's national team. Like I said, 2 bronze and a gold. Not a bad haul. Nathan Saliba, the best Saliba in world football, is leaving Montreal apparently this summer. Apparently. No bids have officially come in yet, but apparently Montreal are expecting many bids to come in for him. No clubs, leagues, or sides were named at this time. But in my opinion, I think he does absolute bits with a mid-table Bundesliga team. That's my opinion. Where he goes, I don't know. That's just me. I think he's a very good player. If you've been listening to this podcast for quite some time, you know I rate Saliba quite highly. I mean, you don't earn the name the best Saliba in world football if you're not the best Saliba in world football. And he is. And I do think his play style, to me, just screams Bundesliga. Now, where he goes, I don't know. But wherever he does go, of course, I will update you, and will wish him nothing but the best. But yeah, I can't say, all due respect to Montreal, I just can't say I blame him for wanting to leave Montreal at this moment, especially if it's to a European side, especially for a guy that's trying to break into the Canadian men's national team. He's, of course, had a few call-ups here and there, but has never been a staple since Jesse Marsh has come in. And I think it would do him some good, especially because Montreal just doesn't seem to be super serious at the moment in the MLS. Once again, all due respect to them. But yeah, they just don't seem to be super serious, don't seem to be looking like they're going to be mounting a playoff run. Don't seem like they are going, well, they might do something in Can-Champ. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't think so. So yeah, I can't say I blame him, especially if a European club comes a calling and you're going to play, go. I think he'll do great, honestly. And another transfer saga that could be starting this summer, Tani Oluwaseyi. Apparently clubs in the English second tier and others around Europe are looking at him. Nothing more to say than that from the report I read. But we'll, kind of like with Saliba, I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see. It's transfer window time, so any player could go at any time. And we'll all just have to sit here and go, oh man, I can't believe that happened. Last night in the MLS, of course, Montreal, speaking of Montreal, they lost to the New England Revolution 3-0. Once again, don't have much to say on it, in all fairness. Piet at least made his 200th MLS appearance, so that's good for him. I think he's been a long-time underrated player in Canada and in the MLS in general. And then TFC, shocking, I know, they also lost 2-0 to Charlotte. Richard Larea at least came back. He made his, I believe that's his first appearance of the season. I'd have to fact check that, but I think he's been out all season, I believe. So it's good to see him back. I'm a big fan of Richard Larea. I think he's a great player. I think he's good for TFC. And I mean, I don't think that he is the difference maker. I don't think that he specifically is going to be the one where it's like, all right, he's going to turn this around for TFC and now their season starts. I don't think it's anything like that. But it's good to have him back. That's for sure. And finally, in the CPL, Forge drew Cavalry 1-1. In my opinion, I think Forge should have won this game. They started the first 15-20 minutes really much on the back foot. Like, really on the back foot. They went down after 3 seconds to Cavalry. And it looked like, oh no. And then for the next 15, 20-ish minutes, it looked pretty shook. But then Jose Masunda kept the ball alive, making a great assist for Nana Ampoma, who scored. He's been having quite the fine season. I thought I had a good game as well. Forge then missed a good few chances. Striker Brian Wright did not convert a golden opportunity. Jose Masunda put a ball right on his foot, one-on-one with the keeper. Credit to Marco Carducci. He makes himself big, makes a save, but that is a chance, in my opinion, as a striker. That's your bread and butter. You have to score that. And I think with Brian Wright, it's a thing of, I think he's just low on confidence at the moment. It's just not clicking for him. And trust me, I'm a Wright fan. I think he's a very good player. You don't win Player of the Year if you're not a good player. That's for sure. But I think he's a good player. I just don't think it's clicking for him at the moment. I think he's low on confidence. And I think you need to give him a little bit of a break. I know Forge has their injury issues at the moment, but I think you gotta sit him for maybe a game or two, because you're not doing him any favors if you're just putting him out there and he keeps on missing these chances. I think he needs a little bit of a break. Maybe sit him next game, sit him the next 2 games, bring him on in the last 10, 15 minutes. Get him kind of, take the pressure off him maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't make these choices, but that's just me. I think Forge, they need to start scoring more goals. They only have 10 goals in the CPL this season. That's not good. Of course, they are still undefeated, but that's 5 draws, 3 wins. 2 of those wins coming against Pacific. That's 66% of their wins coming against Pacific. And really, if we want to get technical, that other win against Pacific, it should have been a goal kick, guys. But of course, I am, as you know, a Forge fan, so I still back the boys. But yeah, I think they just need a bit of rejigging at the moment, because they need to start scoring. That is their problem. Their defense, I think, has been very good this season. They need to start scoring now. That's how I feel. Let's move on to the next game, Halifax and York on the road series, where in Quebec they drew 7,218. And may I please say, get Quebec minimum one CPL team, maybe even two. The fans came out in the pouring rain to watch this game. And I think that's really cool and shows how much they want this. Elijah Adekubi as well gets his 100th CPL appearance. He's been a great servant to the league, to York, and to Cavalry before York. So it's good to see him get that. Now the captain of York, of course. York won this game, by the way, 2-0. Altobelli scores his 7th of the season. Yates scoring against his former club. And sorry, I forgot to literally mention the Friday night game this week. Vancouver drew with Atletico Ottawa 2-2. Vancouver blowing a 2-0 lead. Ottawa showed why they're in my opinion, been the best team in the CPL this season. Turned that around, made it 2-2. Sam Salter and David Rodriguez scoring for them. And then some controversy at the end with a disallowed goal for Atletico Ottawa with basically last kick of the game. I don't know if it was a handball or foul. They kind of explained it, but kind of didn't. There was something to do in that goal that was illegal, and it was called back. Of course, credit to the referee for letting Atletico Ottawa celebrate for 30 seconds and then calling the goal back. Thought that was just super nice of him. But yeah, as of this moment, Valor and Pacific have not played just yet as I'm recording this. This just happened to be the best time I could record this, so I'm very sorry to Valor and Pacific. I haven't watched a game yet, but I do think Pacific are going to win that. I think that's what I predicted in the last one. Maybe I didn't. I'm just straight up lying. But with all this being said, let's get. I've talked a little bit about maple syrup. So let's get into the Champions League final recap. Yeah. So who had 5-0 on their bingo card? If you say you did, you're lying. I know you are, because no one did. Even, I think, the most optimistic PSG fan didn't have 5-0 on their bingo card. And if they did, I'd like to meet that fan and ask them, why did you think that? Because that's crazy that you got that right. Yeah, I mean, wow. I don't even know where to begin with this one, honestly, because this was very much a tale of two teams. I guess I'll start with Inter. Because I feel like there's maybe more to talk about with Inter than there is PSG. Because what was that, Inter? I've watched a good amount of Inter this season. I haven't watched every single game of them, of course, but I've watched a bit of Inter this season. I have not seen them be this bad this season, period. They waited for the last possible game and the most important game for them to just be terrible. Yeah, not a good end to the season for Inter as a whole. They finished second best in basically every competition. They lost to AC Milan back in January in the Supercopa? And of course, that's not the end of the season, but that's just one competition where they finished second. Then in the league, they lost by 1 point, a league that they should have won if it wasn't for a Marko Arnautovic miss in the 94th minute in their penultimate game. And if they had won that, it would have been in their hands on the final day. Of course, then it wasn't in their hands on the final day, and Napoli ended up winning. All right, fair play. We go to the Champions League final. We're looking for redemption. 2 years ago, we lost to Manchester City. And now we're back here. We had one of the best UCL draws of all time against Barcelona. That was a great tie. Like, genuinely, what a tie that was. All that to be smoked 5-0 in the final is absurd. If I'm Inzaghi, right, I'm accepting that offer from Saudi like yesterday. It's time, buddy. I rate Inzaghi as a coach. I'll never rate what he did to my beautiful boy Tejan Buchanan, but I rate Inzaghi as a manager outside of that. But he got it wrong. He got it dead wrong. This was proper belt to ass by PSG, and I try not to use that sort of language here on the Maple Footy podcast, but there's just no other way to explain it. This was a proper walloping by PSG. It was a mauling, like a genuine, genuine mauling. I have never seen a game of this magnitude played like that since Brazil, Germany. That's 7-1 in the 2014 World Cup. And at least that wasn't the final, like feather in the cap, I guess. This was terrible, horrendous, genuinely. As Inter, also, side note, if you know an Inter Milan fan, please make sure they're doing okay. Because I know if my team lost 5-0 in a Champions League final, I have no idea what I would be doing. Yeah, so if you know an Inter fan, maybe give them a hug or something. But yeah, this was awful. I don't know how else to explain this. It was just terrible. Like, did they not know? Maybe they thought it was a two-legged affair. And they're like, okay, we'll get them in the second one. That's not the case, guys. That's not the case. From defense to attack, they were just so disjointed. Jan Sommer, he was just hung out to dry this game. Yeah, sure, maybe he could have done better on some of the goals. But when your defense is just going, hey, man, have fun out there. We're not doing anything to protect you. What more are you supposed to do, really? Bastoni, in my opinion, probably a top 3 center back in Europe, genuinely. You wouldn't know it if that was your first game ever watching him. Acerbi, he scored that amazing goal, had an amazing story. He was diagnosed with leukemia back in, 2013, 2014, fights back, comes into a Champions League final. Everybody wants this guy to do well. And I'm very sad to report it was not his day either. Benjamin Pavard, World Cup winner, former Champions League winner, was brought into this game over the likes of De Vrij and Besic because he has that winner's experience. He was hooked. He came off in the 54th. He saw 9 minutes of the second half. There's so much for experience, pal. That's crazy. Don't even get me started on the wingbacks. I rate these two wingbacks very high. If you know me, you know how much I love Federico DiMarco. So you could imagine my heartbreak watching him play as if he's never played in his life before. Federico, you're better than this. I watched Federico put on, genuinely, a man-of-the-match level performance against Manchester City in the Champions League final last time out. Okay? Just happened to be on the wrong side of history. This time he comes out. What's he doing? He totally just caught ball chasing on the first goal. Second goal, it's a bad deflection off him, but he turns his back, so he does himself no favors there. At least if it just deflects off him, you're going, all right, deflections happen. But he turns his back. It doesn't see the ball, and then deflects in 2-0. And he's hooked in the 54th as well. Of course, this wasn't his best ever season for Inter. He struggled a lot with injuries. But my goodness, you got to show up for this game. Denzel Dumfries had an unreal 2 legs. Like, genuinely, legacy-defining 2 legs against Barcelona. What did he do yesterday in the final? I will say credit to him. I can't say if other Inter Milan players did this as well. But after the game, Denzel Dumfries went up to the Inter supporters that were still there and shook as many of their hands and apologized face-to-face to them as he could. And I think, obviously it doesn't change the fact that they, lost 5-0. But at least he had the guts to go and face them and apologize to them, At least he did that, right? So I guess a little bit of credit there. Hendrik Mkhitaryan, I'm sorry. What's he doing starting in a Champions League final? And I understand. Inter, maybe, they don't have the spending power of a PSG. But you're starting Hendrik Mkhitaryan in a Champions League final? Okay, move along from him. Hakan Çalhanoğlu. His second Champions League final. By the way, AC Milan fans must be super happy about this. Not only have they watched Inter Milan lose their last 2 Champions League finals, and this one, you will never get a greater hate watch than this if you're an AC Milan fan. Like, I soak that in, by the way, if you're an AC Milan fan. But then adding, I don't want to say salt to the wound because this is a good thing for them. Hakan Çalhanoğlu used to play for AC Milan. Now he plays for Inter. He left AC Milan to I guess win trophies, or maybe he just didn't like AC Milan. I don't know. But he leaves AC Milan to go to their biggest rival, Inter Milan, and has now lost 2 Champions League finals. So if you're an AC Milan fan, that's got to feel somewhat good, I think, as bad as that sounds. He was a ghost. He had a free kick opportunity early in the second half when they were still barely kind of in it. They were on the ropes type thing. And he just fluffs his lines. A set piece specialist. No other guy in this Inter team that you'd want over that free kick, and he just fluffs it. All right. Nicola Barella. I'm a massive fan of him. Genuinely, I think one of the best center midfielders in the world. Another one, you wouldn't know it if that was your first time watching him. It's quite disappointing because I'm a big Barella fan. Really disappointed watching him. I think of the guys I'm most disappointed in, I would probably say it would be those 3 Italians: DeMarco, Barella, and Bastoni. And I guess you could get Adam Dumfries. He's not Italian, of course. He's Dutch. But yeah, that's who I'm quite disappointed in, because you expect so much more, especially from like a guy like Barella, who we've seen his class in big games as well. Like, he has shown up in big games. It's not like he's like an anonymous big game player. Like, he has shown up multiple times in big games for Inter and for Italy. And he was bad. That second goal starts because of him. He's trying to let go up for a corner, and Pacho just goes, "No, pal, we're keeping this one in." And then they spring the counter, and before you know it, it's 2-0. Man, he just struggled to get a hold of the game, didn't connect defense to attack. And, I mean, in all fairness, Inter wasn't even trying to use the midfield. They were just trying to play out from the back, but then kind of gave up on that, just started hoofing the ball up and hoping that Lautaro or Thuram could get onto it. And then that wasn't working, so then they kind of started trying to use the midfield. That wasn't working, so then they just let PSG score 5. Yeah, just very disappointing from them. And their 2 strikers, I mean, Lautaro Martinez, if you're expecting anything from him in a big game, yeah, you haven't watched enough of Lautaro Martinez. I actually do think he's a very good player and has done amazing with Inter. He's one of the best strikers in the Serie A. But when those lights are shining bright, he don't rise to the occasion. I'm sorry. He just doesn't. And some players are just like that, And that's where you would want your other striker to come in. I'm not the biggest Thuram fan. I'm not a massive fan of his. He was playing like he had cement in his boots, genuinely. When Inter was still kind of sort of in the game a little bit in that first half, a ball came into the box and he just didn't even challenge for it. He was running genuinely like he had cement in his boots. Like, maybe I'll try to kind of put it out. The ball went out. It's pathetic, really. In the biggest game of your life, you do that, And then when it was 2-0 for PSG, so still you're kind of in it if you get a goal, right? Open header. It fluffs it, puts it wide. Pathetic, genuinely. And I think that just kind of sums up this Inter Milan performance. As harsh as it sounds, it was just pathetic. You can't turn up to a Champions League final and lose 5-0. You just can't do it. Where does Inter go from here? I don't know. Is it rebuild time? It feels kind of ridiculous, right? They make a Champions League final. They finish second in the Serie A. And now it's rebuild? I think so. Genuinely, I do. Because this is an aging side as well. Average age of 30. That's getting up there. And some of their crucial players are old. Like, they're getting old. A soccer player old, of course. Like Acerbi, he's 37. Jan Sommer, he's mid-30s. Mkhitaryan, he's 84, So I think that they have to do a rebuild. I think that they need to bring in some quality depth in the midfield. Nicola Barella and Hakan Çalhanoğlu, I'm a big fan of both of them. But outside of that, I don't see them having great midfielders. Their wing backs, I should say, it doesn't feel like they have great backup for them either. I know Augusto on that left side, people are a fan of him, and I do think he's decent as a backup, but you're okay, maybe you keep him, but he wasn't even the first left wing back off the bench yesterday. They brought in Nikola Zielinski, the replacement for Tajon Buchanan when Tajon left. okay, I guess. And then they brought on Carlos Augusto for Hendrik Mkhitaryan. What was the play there? You have two left backs on now, and now not a third central midfielder. What? And then you bring on Darmian, who is also like, how old is he now? He's got to be, what, 36? 37? Hell, he's 35. 35-year-old Matteo Darmian coming in at the time, I think it was 2 or 3-0, so the game's already done anyways. I guess go out there. Fratesi doesn't even get on, by the way. He doesn't even get on. I would have started him, at least. He scored the goal to put you here. And he celebrated so hard, he nearly knocked himself out. It shows at least he's got some friggin' heart. Like, come on. Yeah, I just think, overall, I think he just got it just terribly wrong, Inzaghi. If he leaves, I don't know who they get as a manager. I really don't. I'm trying to think of managers on the market that are available that Inter would get. I'm trying to think of some players that they could get for a little bit cheap. I really don't know. I don't see them coming back to a Champions League final next season. I don't see it being like a rebound. They could. I do think that Serie A is a competitive league, so they could go back and win the Serie A next season, especially because it feels like big teams are kind of sleeping right now, like your AC Milan, your Juventus. So, you got Napoli and Inter as it feels like the two genuine contenders for the Serie A. But I just don't know where you go. If I'm Jonathan David, by the way, I know he's been linked with Inter. I know it's more so leaning towards Napoli. I'm not joining Inter at this moment in time. No, I'm not signing up for a rebuild. He's waited this long to leave Lille. Do not go to a rebuild. And maybe they don't rebuild. I don't know. I genuinely don't know where they go from here. I don't know if you stick with these guys. I don't know if it's a mass sell. I don't know who you bring in. I think it's a very confusing time for Inter Milan, and that's for their board to figure out. My last thing on Inter, though, I will say, you never should have got rid of Tage. Canadians have a 100% win rate in the Champions League final. Look into that stat, and it's a lot less impressive, but a 100% win rate in the Champions League final nonetheless. And a part of me, while I was actually pretty neutral for this game, I was fine with either team winning. A part of me was sitting there going, I'm glad Tajon Buchanan doesn't have this on his CV, because he don't deserve that. So if there's any takeaway from this game, it's that Tajon Buchanan was not a part of this squad. He was on loan to Villarreal at the time. So silver linings, I guess, right? But that's enough about Inter, I think. Let's talk a little bit about PSG. Yeah, this was deserved. No fairness. You don't win 5-0 without it being deserved. But since that group stage, like league play, whatever they call it now, once we got to the knockouts, PSG to me have been the best team. They beat Liverpool on penalties. Liverpool took them to the limit. But over those two legs, I thought PSG was the better team. Then they play Aston Villa. Once again, first leg, it a total PSG dominance. The second leg, for basically the first 60 minutes of that game, it's PSG dominance again. Aston Villa, of course, do actually win the second leg 3-2. Not enough, of course. Donnarumma made some big saves in that game. They play Arsenal in the semifinals, and Arsenal fans can use all the stats they want because I've been seeing it on Twitter and Instagram of them saying, "Oh, we were the best competitor for PSG." No, you weren't. PSG looked in the driver's seat from minute 1 to minute 90 of the second leg. Like minute 1 of the first leg to minute 90 of the second leg. PSG led for 176 minutes out of the 180 minutes in that tie. The 4 minutes they weren't leading was when it was 0-0 before Ousmane Dembele scored in the 4th minute of the first leg. Okay? So let's not try to act like Arsenal was like they would have been the saviors here, Then of course they get to the final, and as I said at the start of this Champions League recap, nobody would have expected this. 5-0 is absurd in a Champions League final, and I will say that I gotta try to say this correctly. Because, of course, we know PSG's history with money and sports washing and everything like that. taking that away from this, okay? Let's try to step away from that, okay? I think the game kind of needed this play-wise, okay? So take away the not good stuff, looking at the play, okay? The play, I think the game needed this. This was not a robotic performance. This was technical brilliance on display, okay? Now, everybody's on about hard work and, off the ball effort, okay? But then they always forget about, like, when you're on the ball, you also have to have some technical prowess, if you will. And I think that's where the game has fallen off in the last few years. We have missed out on. We've had hardworking players, absolutely, and I think there's a place in the game for that. But we've lacked technical brilliance. PSG took both of those things, blended them up, and you got this. Just such a fun team to watch, tactically, on the ball, off the ball, working hard to win back possession. Once they have possession, they're springing into attacks, fluid motion. Just, they're not wingers, they're fullbacks, bombing up the pitch, playing as fullbacks should. They have their box crashing, their overlapping run, they're running into the inside. None of this, he's inverting bullshit, bro. Enough of that shit. Let's leave that now. We don't need inverting. All right, you saw it. Okay, you saw it. What the hell's inverting anyways? We had Hakimi and Mendes looking just so good. In all fair, their center backs, they didn't have much to do, but credit to them, they stepped into the midfield when PSG were trying to win the ball back, or when PSG were in possession. The amount of times Pacho just won the ball back. By the way, first ever Ecuadorian to win the Champions League. That's absolutely massive, so congratulations to him. That's a huge moment for Ecuadorian football. But he's stepping in and winning just basically everything. And then Marquinhos has been that guy that's been here through all the PSG heartbreak. And now he gets to wear the captain's armband and lift that trophy. So that's a fun story. Donnarumma, I said before the game to my dad, right? I think this game hinges on if Donnarumma has a good game or not. Wow, was I wrong? They could have had an empty net and it wouldn't have mattered. Inter had like one chance, and it was already like 4-0 when Donnarumma was tested at all. Whatever, all right? Shows how much I know, I guess. Midfield as well. I'm a massive fan of their midfield. Maybe the best midfield three in Europe. Is that recency bias talking? Maybe, probably. But Vitinha, what a tournament he had. I know he missed that penalty against Arsenal. Outside of that, he was so good. And even yesterday, ran the show, pulled the strings. Just so hard to get the ball off him, the way he moves his body around. Don't shoot me for this comparison. Remind me a little bit of how Isco plays. Just a little bit. Isco, good on the ball, technical, silky. He's able to launch an attack. He's able to pitch in the attack. He connects play just so well. Just such a fun player to watch. That's what Vitinha kind of reminded me of. Not bad for a guy that quote-unquote flopped at Wolves. Champions League winner now. João Neves. Everybody was like, why is he going to PSG? Well, you should stay with Benfica. I'd say he made the right choice, boys. I'd say he made the right choice. Probably the quietest of their midfield three on the day. But yeah, it doesn't take away from the fact that he was also still just quite good. Fabian Ruiz, I really like this player. I rate him highly at the Euros. I had him as one of my players of the tournament at the Euros last summer. I thought he had a great semifinal against Arsenal, both legs. And then once it kind of quieter on the day here, but still did his job. Very much that technical Spanish brilliance that you would expect on the ball. Looks so comfortable with the ball at his feet. Looks good defensively. Looks good in the attack. Like I said, looks good in possession. Always an option. Passes that cut grass. Oh my gosh. Playing central midfielder, in my opinion, how it should be played. Just looks so good. So complete. Yeah. Just proper. The front three. Oh my goodness, this front three. This may be my favorite front three to watch. when I get to watch them because they're so much fun to watch. Doué, 19 years old, a brace and an assist in a Champions League final. A brace and an assist in a Champions League final at the age of 19. He's done it. He's literally done it. What more can you do? He won the Young Player of the Tournament as well, by the way. I do hope and pray, though, and that the media, I know they probably already have and will, I really hope that they don't hype him up to just crazy, unimaginable, unattainable heights, because the media tends to do this. They build up young stars, and then when they don't hit those expectations that the media placed on them, then they tear them down for not being that player that was supposed to be this and supposed to be that, because the media deemed them so. So let's not do that with this kid. Unreal performance. It was brilliant. He's had a great season, but please do not start labeling him this, that, and the other. He is great and has great potential. I think that is where we should begin and end with it. And he had a phenomenal performance, and he was well-deserved Young Player of the Tournament. He was great. But please don't start going, oh, he's the next Pele. Let's not do that, please. But yeah, ran the show, was giving DeMarco and Dumfries and just that entire interback line just a headache because they just could not keep up with him. He was everywhere, so creative. And scored two goals in the Champions League final. That's absurd. I saw the stat, he's the first teenager since 1964, I think, to score a brace in the Champions League final. That's absurd. Let's move over to the left wing, Kvaratskhelia, one of my favorite players in world football at the moment. I love this guy. I absolutely love him. When he left Napoli in January, I was like, why not just stay with Napoli? And, become like a Napoli. He would have become a Napoli legend. He would have been the guy there for their two Scudetto wins with post Maradona. He would have been the guy. I'm not comparing him to Maradona. I'm just saying he's going down in Napoli history as oh wow, he brought us two Scudettos and then he left in January. I was like, well, why? Once again, like I said with Donnarumma, shows how much I know. He was obviously playing chess while I was playing checkers. This guy goes to Ligue 1, plays with PSG, and doesn't skip a beat. It's still just so exciting. He plays that wing position how I think it should be played. He's just direct on the ball. So good on the ball. He's got a bag of tricks to get around the defense. So hard to mark, but he also works hard off the ball. See, it's not one or the other with PSG of working hard off the ball or being a good on-the-ball player. They have both in every single player. They all work hard off the ball, and they all look great on the ball. That's where, in my opinion, teams say in England have lost it a little bit. You either have a hard-working guy or a guy that's good on the ball. You don't have both, PSG has that both, I'm saying the Prem because I watch the Prem the most, right? And yeah, Kvaratskhelia, I'm so happy that he got this Champions League. I don't know if he's the first Georgian to win the Champions League. I didn't see that he was, but I can't imagine that there's a long list of them if he's not the first. And he is the Georgian golden boy. He's their guy, and as he should be. This guy's phenomenal. And the fact that the world just watched him go to PSG for $60 million in January, uncontested, is absurd. The fact that a player of his caliber didn't have every single top club in the world after his signature, excusez-moi, how? He's unbelievable. I love Kvaratskhelia. Of the players, I think I'm happiest for him just because I like him so much. And Ousmane Dembele, that was his Ballon d'Or. I'm sorry, you can disagree if you want. That's totally fine. But the spearhead in a PSG treble, the guy in this PSG season, he just won UEFA Player of the Season as well. I think that's his Ballon d'Or. I just do. I know the Ballon d'Or isn't all about team accolades, but they sure do help. And as the guy in a treble-winning season to bring PSG their first ever Champions League, it's hard to argue it. Like, you could bring other names to the table for sure. But for me right now, Dembele's got to be the favorite. Just look at what he did. And another thing about this front three, go back and watch the first 4 goals, because that's when all 4 of them, all 3 of their front three were on for the first 4. I think Doué wasn't on for the 4th. But regardless, go back and watch. At least 2 of them are involved in those first 4 goals. If you watch the entire play, that's how influential this front three is to this team. Even if they were not scoring, they were involved in the play. Okay? Dembele, back to him. I'm very happy for him as well. You know, he was one of those young kids that was, he broke out the same time as Mbappe, really. And there was high expectation on him. He leaves Ligue 1, goes to Borussia Dortmund, and he looks great. Then he goes to Barcelona, gets the injury bug, can't shake it, doesn't look phenomenal each time he plays. You know, he has those flashes of brilliance here and there. He wins a World Cup, of course. That's the pinnacle. He wins a World Cup. But outside of that, he was very up and down. In the World Cup final in 2022, he was pulled off before halftime. You know, so it shows you where his career has been. Then he goes back to PSG and becomes their guy after Mbappe leaves. Like, he is their guy. It's a very good story, I think. And it's just really cool that even regardless of if he wins the Ballon d'Or, who cares, right? Because look at the season he had. Look at the accolades he's just gotten. Champions League and a World Cup winner now at the age of 27 or 28. Like, come on. And especially for a guy that, I don't want to say it looked over for him, but it wasn't looking up for him at many various points during his career. And now here he is, being the guy in a treble-winning season. That's absolutely massive. Luis Enrique called for him to win the Champions League, the Ballon d'Or. So we'll see if the Ballon d'Or voters, agree. And one last thought on this final is, of course, with Luis Enrique. What a beautiful banner that the PSG fans held up for him. Of course, Luis Enrique's daughter passed away just at the age of 9 due to a rare brain tumor, and it was genuinely a beautiful banner. And I think maybe my favorite moment of yesterday was after the game. He was being interviewed. I can't remember which outlet was doing it, but he was being interviewed, and they of course asked him about his daughter, and he had said that, you know, he felt fortunate for the 9 years he got to spend with his daughter, and I just thought that was beautiful. And before this game, he had said that his daughter will be there with him, and yeah, I'm really happy for him specifically, because, you know, that's a lot to, obviously, you would imagine, go through, losing your daughter at such a young age, and then still proceeding on in your career and being successful and carrying her memory with you everywhere you go. He wore a shirt for her as well at the end of the game when they were accepting their medals and doing all the interviews and pictures and whatnot. He was wearing a shirt for her, and I just thought it was a great tribute to her. And to me, that's where this becomes, you know, more than a game, and a celebration for someone who sadly lost her life so young. And a guy like him, I think it's, you know, I think that's bigger than any trophy that he's been able to forge on and carry her with him. And I just think it was just a very touching thing to watch him and to watch the PSG fans and to watch them all celebrate wearing her shirt and talking about her and having her banner. I just thought it was beautiful. So I just want to add that in here at the end, because while it is a game, I do think that some things can be bigger than the game and are bigger than the game. And so I thought that was great to see. And that Yeah, that wraps it up, I think. That's the Champions League 2025 final, 2024, 2025 final, all wrapped up. It was shocking, as I've said throughout this episode. I did not expect this. And hopefully next year's final is not like this. I will once again say I do feel for Inter fans. I do not feel for the players or the manager or the backrooms. Well, the backroom staff I feel for, but I mean like the higher ups in the backroom staff, like the football operations guys, like all of them. Like you kind of did this, right? Like I feel for the fans because that's a lot. That's a lot. 5-0 in the Champions League final is brutal. But yeah, congratulations PSG. And finally getting there first, and they look a very good team. They look a very good team, and they were very fun to watch. Hopefully next season it's not them because the mighty Chelsea are back in there. Let's go for 3, baby. But yeah, quickly before I go, let me quickly do my CPL predictions, as I like to end my episodes on those. So it'll be match week 10 coming up in the CPL, of course. It's going to kick off this Wednesday, actually, with Valor and Vancouver. I'm going to go Vancouver. I said it. I'm going to go Vancouver, 2-0. Then on Saturday, you have Pacific and Ottawa as the lone game. I'm sorry, Pacific. I just feel like they're just not, this season feels very much, I don't want to say over for them, but I find it hard to see them getting much from this season after losing 2 great players to injury. I think in Ottawa, they're just too good this season, I think. I'm sorry, Pacific. I'm going to go 3-0. Well, very sorry, Pacific. Then on Sunday, Forge Halifax on June 8th. Forge Halifax. Forge needs a big win. They need a win. And I'm hoping they're going to get it. They beat Halifax, of course, last time, 3-0 in the Can Champ, but drew them 0-0 in the CPL. I'm going to go Forge 2-1. Yeah, we'll do that. And Calvary York wrap up the weekend. We will go 2-2. 2-2 draw. And yeah, that brings an end to that. And keep an eye out. My Premier League season recap is dropping on Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that. I'm just about to go record that right now, actually, so keep an eye out for that. There will be no Maple start for that, sadly, womp, womp, womp. Because of course I did it in this episode, and there won't be CPL predictions because I did that in this episode as well. I do hope you enjoyed. If you are a new listener, because this is of course Champions League talk, I don't usually do Champions League talk, but because of the final, gotta hop on that. If you're a new listener, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you stick around, please. That'd be nice. And if you don't, I hope you enjoyed the journey that I just took you on. And yeah, like I said, keep an eye out for Wednesday. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.